Hello everybody and welcome back to F1 23 with me, Dan, and the Razor Slothz team. We come to the midway point of the season at last. We're going to France today, and it's a very short gap between the Austrian Grand Prix and this one of just a week. So not much to do here besides give Jack Doohan some extra stat boosts for the weekend. Head over to practice, complete practice 1, and then jump straight into practice 2 as we are doing right now. Just trying to pick up basically everything that I wasn't able to get before this when I did my practice runs. And yeah, they weren't going too bad. I think we're getting a little faster now without the racing line. And, well, we were kind of already used to the no traction control by this stage, so it's still just a case of learning the circuits. We've got Hungary coming up next week, which is another one which is one that I've not really done before. I don't know the circuit incredibly well, but as the practice sessions start to roll on and we get some more laps under our belt, it gets a little easier and we start to get used to braking points between different tracks as well, which is a little bit interesting, and figuring out where we can experiment with braking zones. So before we go over to the race, over to R&D, and we'll finally pick up the front wing upgrade and then the rear wing upgrade, which will push us right up to the top of the table in aero. So then over to the French Grand Prix for the second of the races that aren't on the calendar but are in the game. It's almost as though we're being offered a great opportunity here by Codemasters and EA to actually get content for free that isn't actually part of the game usually. If only they could add some circuits like Istanbul, that would be a welcome addition to the calendar as well. Maybe even go as far as adding somewhere like Korea, India, or South Africa maybe. Anyway, don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you know when all these races are uploaded. And we'll be headed over to the starting grid now for the French Grand Prix. And starting things off on the front row, we have the two Ferraris of Charles Leclerc, and alongside him is his teammate Carlos Sainz. So a good run for the two Ferraris here in France. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Alex Albon and Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen and George Russell, Lewis Hamilton and Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll and Lando Norris. Then Kevin Magnussen and Esteban Ocon, Nico Hulkenberg and Jack Doohan, Valtteri Bottas and Oscar Piastri, Teo Pourchaire and Logan Sargent, Yuki Tsunoda and Radiant Slothz, and Joe Guan Yu and Nick De Vries. A pretty poor qualifying. We did one lap, which put us at a pretty high spot, and then out of nowhere decided to retire the car, and everybody improved their times quite significantly. So we'll be starting right near the back with the slow guys and trying to fight our way through the field past our teammate and rivals all the way to the front. We'll just have to see how well that goes here in the French Grand Prix. So getting underway with the French Grand Prix, a good result for Alex Albon, starting right up at the front in amongst it all, but we'll see if he can stay there by the end of the race as we get underway now in France. Already blasting through the field, right up behind our teammate there as it gets very crowded on the right-hand side of the circuit as we come down towards turn 1, swerving out from behind Valtteri Bottas and trying to get through. Jack Doohan there doing his best to keep Bottas at bay. We're going to be starting on the medium tyre as well today, so we're not going to be quite as quick around these opening laps as we are usually, but at least I'm slightly familiar with the circuit, which does help just a little bit here in improving our lap time, as we've now gotten past Valtteri Bottas, improving by about 5 positions already. Up ahead of us is our teammate Jack Doohan, who is starting to pull away slightly on the straights. I'm starting to get the feeling that this setup is not designed for straight line speed. But here's our start. Great start for the Williams there, but gets held up behind the McLaren and Alfa Romeo, and then it's just everybody getting stuck behind that Alpine as we pull away up the inside of the Alfa Romeo, round the outside, and as we try and pull away here, we've rode on board and already know what happens. This is Doohan, and yes, it appears as though the Alpine is adamant that he is not going to get out of the way, and he's going to sit right in front of everyone there. If Doohan had taken the initiative to go round maybe he would have been up ahead of him by now, but alas, he did not. So we rejoin at the end of lap 1. Still a little way to go. Looking down at the minimap, actually, it looks as though Alex Albon has moved up a place into P2, so he could be on for a win here, and we're going to dive down the inside of Jack Doohan and Esteban Ocon, doing what our teammate was not able to do at the start of the Grand Prix, and hopefully Doohan will find a way by before we reach the end of this race. As we rejoin on lap 2, around the same place we joined just now, approaching the end of the lap, we've got the two Hasses fighting for the final point right now, and Pierre Gasly doing his bit for the French crowd there in the points position as we go down the inside of Lando Norris, our old rival, a fallen hero in that McLaren at the moment, not having received the patches which made it much faster. At least I'm guessing they exist. He is going to have a look. Unfortunately, it's not going to be. Doohan also got through ahead of Ocon as well, so we are approaching the points as we watch George Russell making liberal use of the edge of the circuit to get round the outside of Max Verstappen, who is having an absolutely dreadful season, currently sitting somewhere 7th or 8th in the championship. And it looks like he's going to be overtaken by his old rival, Lewis Hamilton, as we jump back on board with us. Hamilton does get ahead, and we're now right up behind Kevin Magnussen as we go through the flat right-hander. Try and find a way through here, this double right-hander. Up the inside of the hat, he makes a massive correction there, which he didn't really need to do. And opens the door for us very kindly. Approaching us, Nico Hülkenberg up ahead as looks so. Oh, we got past Hulkenberg. That was very easy, but it looks as though we got a bit of a queue forming behind what would have been Verstappen. The Mercedes should pull away pretty easily now, but yeah, Verstappen, how the mighty have fallen as well, the two Mercedes go toe-to-toe there on different tyre compounds, and we swerve all over the place behind Lance Stroll down towards the flat right, and we are well and truly ahead by this point. Can we get Gasly as well as we ride from the TV cam? We're going to go round the outside. Look how close we are to the side of the Alpine as we go sweeping round down the inside here where we overtook Kevin Magnussen earlier on, and that is another position up into P8, and I'm starting to feel like I'm much better now without the racing line and the traction control, and that the difficulty will be increased by the time we get to Hungary next week. Or is it this week? I can't even keep track anymore as we watch the onboard round the outside and then down the inside of Pierre Gasly. I know his tyres are going to be going off at this point, but we really shouldn't be that quick, surely. And we're already on lap 5, all over the back of Max Verstappen, who is losing ground, but there goes Gasly up the inside to the thrill of the French crowd, or the boos, depending on how they're feeling today. That's not going to last very long here as we come round. We've got Lance Stroll trying to find a way to spin us out here as we approach the DRS straight. It's not worked, and the Alpine marginally quicker than us, but with the ERS deployed, we can get alongside nice and easy, and we are past Russell and Hamilton, still fighting away for P5 right now. I don't know why they're not allowing Hamilton through on the soft tyre, because clearly he's on the different strategy and have Russell battle Verstappen, but just doing this weird little thing anyway, and Verstappen is just holding on to 7th place as a result. In fact, I haven't included them for a while, but the performance stats do indicate that Red Bull have about the 5th fastest engine, which is absolutely ludicrous, and it's really showing on a track like this, unless of course you're Sergio Perez and all the way up in 4th. But another position under a threat now for Max Verstappen is not looking good for the current defending world champion. As we come down the DRS straight, he's not got anything to fight with here, and we're going to go to the inside, and we're already ahead at the corner. We push him wide and cut on board as Lance Stroll Gets past him as well. Verstappen dropping down to 9th, nearly out of the points completely now. As we watch the onboard, we go steaming by, and as we run in wide, Lance Stroll sees the opportunity and avoiding a collision, just flies by Max Verstappen. We've still got 11 laps to go for Verstappen to try and recover. Maybe he can do slightly better on the mediums when he gets onto them a bit later on, or the softs, whichever one he's not using now. But at the moment, it's not looking good, as Stroll demonstrates why that Aston Martin is still a better car than ours. Sailing past us on the DRS straight, but we're going to be coming in for a pit stop shortly anyway. So we're not really too bothered about fighting him. In fact, getting the tow along the straight might be quite useful to try and catch the two Mercedes who have managed to drive away into the sunset up ahead of us. As we come through here, amazingly actually, the Aston Martin handles these corners quite well, even though he's on 9-lap old soft tyres. I say that as we go through there, and he's slowly dropping back. Talking about the other Aston Martin now, Alex Albon fighting away now. I think he just got past someone who came into the pits as we come in as well and nearly rear-end the Aston Martin. Quite a lot of other cars coming in as well behind us. There is Sergio Perez, who we'll be trying to catch up to a little bit later on. And we'll see if we can come out ahead of Stroll here. He's possibly going to be held up by the Williams or not. He seems to have gotten out ahead of him. And we pull out into the rear end of the Aston Martin, but still just as close as we were before. Lewis Hamilton, though, massive loss there for the Mercedes driver, as he's held up by the entire field coming into the pits and is now behind us. He must have lost something like 4 or 5 seconds there over us during that stop with everyone that was coming in, and currently sits P11. Sergio Perez quite significantly ahead of us right now. I don't think we're catching him somehow, at least not at the moment. We're gonna have to wait for a safety car, I think, for that to happen, as we follow Stroll onto the DRS straight. Of course, we've got Lewis Hamilton behind us on the mediums, so we are going to have to be mindful of that. And also the fact that we're trying to overtake Lance Stroll as we dummy to the left, get over the curb on the George Russell line there, and to get past the Aston Martin. Hamilton is going to try the same thing now. And it doesn't look as though he's done it, so that's probably for the best. As we come through turn 1. No, the final corner even. And up ahead, Albon now moving up to second behind Sainz. We're now closing up, but who's coming out of the pit lane? It's George Russell. We're up to P6 now. We joined the fight that the Mercedes were having before the pit stop, so the undercut has worked. But I feel like Hamilton would have been in a much better position had he not been held up by everyone coming into the pits earlier on. And we're now right behind the other Mercedes driver, who's not going to get DRS now on the DRS straight. We do have to watch out, though, because we are sitting at about 30% ERS with a third of the race to go. We don't want to be spending too much of that on this overtake, as behind us, Lance Stroll and Lewis Hamilton go on the attack, but we got a yellow flag up ahead. It has stopped that battle from going on, and we sit behind Russell for a little bit. And we've got a Ferrari off the circuit. Looking up the standings, Charles Leclerc has come off at the end of the straight. Let's go on board. Chasing down Sergio Perez. He's already lost it in the first part of the corner and then goes again. Very similar to how Carlos Sainz had his crash in Monaco very recently as well. And for some reason decides to take the longest possible route back to the circuit. He's rejoined in 10th still, but significantly worse off than he was earlier on. And that's a great opportunity for Alex Albon as we come onto the final lap now, as we failed to catch and overtake Russell through that entire time. We have managed to gap Stroll and Hamilton. They will continue to fight away, as only one of them will get the DRS. And we'll try our best to get past George Russell, this man who won the opening 2 races of the season, was leading the championship at one point before just completely ruining his chances with a string of poor and mediocre results. We'll see where he actually is in the standings a bit later on. It's still quite close, but we get past the Mercedes here, and sweep round, pushing him down to P5. That'll be 10 points to his name and 12 to us now. We're not ever going to catch Sergio Perez at the rate that we're going, because he was already quite far ahead of us earlier on. And the battle for 6th seems to have gone in Stroll's favour for now. And for those wondering, Max Verstappen is all the way down in 12th at this point in the Grand Prix. That is ridiculous. The Red Bull, with that really, really underdeveloped power unit, is so bad that actually Sergio Perez is actually able to do better than Max Verstappen. Of course, he could be using worn components, but it's not looking good down at Red Bull as we cross the line, picking up another good point tally to our name this season. Not a podium, unfortunately, and not a win, which we would have loved to have seen. But we did get Driver of the Day, which isn't exactly an amazing prize, but we'll take it. Carlos Sainz, though, joins the ranks of winners this season. Sergio Perez, a bit gutted, actually, that he couldn't try and climb back up the order a bit more. He was another man leading the championship at some stage. In fact, we'll see if he still is at the moment. But, yeah, Carlos Sainz making it another win for Ferrari, joining Charles Leclerc. And Alex Albon there with a great result puts his Aston Martin into P2, doing as good as Fernando Alonso would have done in his position. And that's it for France. Let's get on with the race results. So getting on to the final results, you can see how Carlos Sainz was able to win in the end, picking up the fastest lap by over a second from second place man Alex Albon. Joining them on the podium, Sergio Perez. Further down the order, we had Radiant Slothz, George Russell, Lance Stroll, Lewis Hamilton, Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris, and finally Charles Leclerc. Moving on to the Drivers' Championship, Lewis Hamilton barely hangs on at the top of the table over his rival Sergio Perez, who's just 4 points behind. Then it's a big jump back to Charles Leclerc, who missed out after the French Grand Prix, now just 1 point ahead of George Russell. Then we have Carlos Sainz in 5th, Radiant Slothz in 6th, joint 7th are Alex Albon and Max Verstappen. Then Lance Stroll and Esteban Ocon rounding out the top 10. Further down the order, we have Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris, Kevin Magnussen, Oscar Piastri, Nico Hulkenberg, Valtteri Bottas, Yuki Tsunoda, and Joe Guan Yu making up point scorers, followed by Jack Doohan, Logan Sargent, Théo Pourchaire, and Nick de Vries. So it's looking good for Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship as they have a 19-point lead now over Ferrari. A Red Bull sit in 3rd, quite a little way back as well. Then the battle for 4th, Aston Martin are still ahead of Razor Sloth Tech by just 6 points. Then a big jump back to Alpine, then McLaren, Haas, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, and Williams. And that's all for this race. We'll catch you next time for Hungary.